Live from Orlando, Florida, you're listening to the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, the voice of Magic fans. Join us every week for a unique fan perspective on all of the latest Magic news and updates. The show starts now.
What's up, Magic fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Orlando Magic HQ podcast, brought to you by the Believe Podcast Network and Bet Online. We're your hosts, Al, myself, Anthony. Today is Friday, January 24th, and this is us recording this episode right after the beatdown that we just received from the Portland Trail Blazers. So we're going to talk about kind of how this ship has been rolling these last few games. Magic on a 5-game losing streak, tied right now, 500 right now, 8th seed in the East, and is not looking pretty at this very moment. But is it time to hit the panic button is the real question. So Al and I, we're going to be discussing that in today's episode. Obviously, the return of Franz Wagner is the big news being reported today. Prior to the Portland game, it was reported that he was upgraded to questionable, and then shortly before the game was given the green light to move forward. So before we get into those topics, quick word from our sponsor, Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, to NHL and UFC, BetOnline is the number one sports betting source for the new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers and hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered on even more every play and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Also, don't forget to check out all new episodes of the Zone Heads podcast with Brandon and his new co-host, Zach. They are available wherever you download your favorite podcast. And catch BK live on In the Zone weekdays on 96.9 The Game, starting at 3:30 p.m. Al, you were at this game today. You're a season ticket holder. How tough is it for you to watch this team struggle the way that they've been struggling? 5-game losing streak. You get the return of Paolo, you get, the news of Franz Wagner returning. Cole Anthony is a no-go, still dealing with his illness. Anthony Black getting the second start. Tristan Da Silva now going back to the second unit with Franz Wagner starting. So definitely a lot of adjustments, a lot of changes, but you being there in person, what's the vibe feeling like? What are your thoughts on kind of this skid that we've been on?
Yeah, man. So I miss the start of the season. So we started so well playing at home. We had not lost a game at home going back to March, to April of last year when we lost to May. Jesus Christ. We actually won against Cleveland, Game 6. So going back to that, it was maybe too good to be true, the way that we started the season, so protecting home court so well. And now all of a sudden, it feels like we cannot find our rhythm. It's our 5th game in a row, losing by double digits. And you and I talked about it last week. Like, man, we can't wait until this rough game's out of the way. After Denver, the schedule kind of flips. It gets easier. And here we are against Toronto, against Portland, and we lose by double digits to the two of them. But to answer your question, man, it's rough, right? Like I take pride. I enjoy going to the games. So does my wife. So we like to go to all these games. But being there tonight, the energy felt different. It was Brazil night, so there was some hype because of that in the arena. But outside of that, for the team itself, the support wasn't the same. Like there was no reasons to cheer. It felt like we were always trailing. We're playing from behind, a ton of turnovers, a ton of missed free throws, a ton of missed three-point shots. So the energy wasn't there. The only bit of energy that we had was when we made a bit of a run to cut it from like 18 to like 12. And it felt like, hey, maybe we have something going here. But outside of that, nothing. We'll be okay. I think we'll find our rhythm once we get Goga back, hopefully on Saturday against Detroit. Hopefully Suggs is not too far behind. But right now, man, it's been rough. It's been the lowest I think the team has been in a long time, right? A 5-game losing streak, all by double digits. You lose to the Celtics, you lose to the Nuggets, you say to yourself, hey, man, we're shorthanded. We're playing against really top quality teams. We understand. But now all of a sudden, you're losing against teams that are literally tanking. They're looking forward to June to go to the draft. And here we are playing for something, trying to not lose our spot in the East. And unfortunately, we haven't shown up. So it's been rough, man, to keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of take a look at just offensively prior to today's game. The last 7 games we've been averaging 97 points, and you take a look, 79 points to finish the game off against the Blazers is our lowest scoring game of the season. But the Magic have struggled to score over 100 points. Against the Raptors, 93. Nuggets was our closest at 100. Celtics 94. Bucks 93. So it's been a struggle for the Magic offensively. So you do get Franz Wagner back. He does well for you offensively. First play of the game, man, he looked alive and energetic. Had a really big block. But Paolo Banchero also, man, he's been struggling a little bit. Even the games where he was able to get it going offensively. You've mentioned it, numerous times from a body language standpoint. Something still seems a little off. So we don't know if it's him still getting acclimated back into the lineup or the team still getting used to it. But it has been rough. It has been tough. And the biggest thing is going to be that it goes to show you how much value Jalen Suggs and Goga Bitadze has for this team. And truthfully, when it comes to comparing, other teams in the NBA, teams are going to struggle without 2 of their big pieces when it comes to just their flow, right? Goga Bitadze, we may not be running a lot of plays for him, but he does so much for us defensively, just from a presence standpoint, from rim protecting to rebounding. And Jalen Suggs, man, he's not, you can criticize him in some aspects to where, he's not the best point guard, right? But he still finds a way to control the tempo, and he's a presence that we are sorely missing right now. So hopefully, we get to see these guys back into the lineup quickly because, it's the Magic got to get out of this funk. Like this is where we're supposed to be taking advantage of these teams. Like there's no reason why on paper this should have been an easy win. There's no reason why we shouldn't be beating a team like Portland, who was also without DeAndre Ayton. And also getting destroyed. Like, you have Wendell Carter, you have Jonathan Isaac, but you take a look at some of these stats and, it jumps out of the page. Like you take a look at points in the paint. We got destroyed. They don't have DeAndre Ayton, and they beat us 58-30 in points in the paint. And we're a team that we're not 3-point shooting team. So we should be thriving in the paint, and it's just not happening. You take a look at Wendell Carter, who didn't have a good game offensively, played 23 minutes, only scored 3 points, and Jonathan Isaac played 18 minutes and didn't score any points. So really, you have no post player bringing you any type of level of offense. So it's got to be frustrating. Paolo Banchero also struggled, eight points for us. So no post presence whatsoever for the Magic.
Yeah, man. And if you think about the 5-game losing streak, I thought that was bad. But I'm looking back at the schedule here. We actually lost 2 before that as well. So we're looking at 1-7 in our last 8 games for the Magic. So again, we had a nice little cushion there while Paolo was out. We some way somehow survived that and did a great job building a cushion. And now all of a sudden, in this month of January,
it's gone.
We've lost that completely. So it's unfortunate because the East is up for grabs, but things are getting really, really tight. Detroit's doing really well. Atlanta's doing really well. Miami, some way, somehow, even though they have a bunch of drama going on with Jimmy Butler, they've managed to stay alive. So as much as I want to feel comfortable, it's getting a little bit tough out there right now. And I will say, to your point, you talked about Paolo. Let's talk about that for a second. So I think, again, Paolo came in that first game against Philly, killed it. 34 points, looked like he was ready. But since that game, I don't know what flipped, but something definitely shifted there with him. Not sure if it's just conditioning, not sure what it could be. But let's talk about his last 5 games during this 5 game losing streak. 17 points per game, shooting 34% from the field, 22% from 3 point range, and only shooting 66% from the free throw line. So not great numbers. Now again, some of those games were against the best teams in the league. We're shorthanded. He's getting double team every time, no doubt about it. But yet tonight you get Franz back, and he goes for 8 points, 1 for 14 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3 point range. So let me ask you, we've done a lot of talking in our group chat that we have on Patreon for our Patreon members. And things got heated a little bit after our last game against Toronto because some of us were saying, like, man, what is going on? Like, we're missing that leader. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to clarify this for everyone that's listening right now. When I get it, you might want to say Franz may have had a couple more teammates that were better players on the court when Paolo went down. But isn't Paolo supposed to be the superstar, the one that can carry you to a next level when others are hurt, when others are not playing? Franz did that. And you may want to say, oh, but he had Suggs. Oh, but he had Goga. When he had Goga at that time, he was legitimately a third-string center that was just stepping in because Wendell was hurt. He wasn't like this Goga that we now know what he can bring to the table. And again, this is not to put Franz against Paolo. Who's the better one? Whose team is this? That's not a debate. It's simple. It's the fact that we're losing games and we need more from Paolo now more than ever before. And I haven't seen that personally. So I'm just like, wait, what is happening? Again, the conditioning may need some work. But let me ask you that. What have you seen from your perspective? What do you think is causing this kind of slipping his game? Even Toronto, like that game, we were up 21 points, a team that is tanking. In some way, somehow, Paolo's body language and attitude in the second half was not what I would expect from my superstar when you've seen that lead kind of go away. I don't know. I was just kind of like, wait, what is happening here right now? So let me ask you, what are your thoughts on Paolo's play, and what do you think is causing this kind of issues on the court for him?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you expect more from Paolo. And here's the thing that we ultimately have to understand also. Like there has to be some level of grace that's given. It does take a minute for a player like Paolo to get readjusted. We can't expect for him to just come in and boom, go back to our all-star level Paolo. We expect it because, you know, we've gotten used to that, right? We've gotten spoiled from that, but that isn't necessarily always the case. Like when we talk about Paolo Banchero, like, you know, we can easily confuse ourselves that he's at the level of the Jason Tatums and, you know, the bigger names in the world. He's not there yet. He has the potential, and we expect him to be there, and he's one of the greats when it comes to, you know, young players in this NBA. But there has to be some level of grace. And then at the same time, it's like there's 82 games in the season. Obviously, he's missed a ton of games. And he's still newly returning. He can have an 8-point game, right? But you don't expect for that 8-point game to happen against a tanking Portland Trailblazers. And I think that that's the part that's most frustrating. Like if we dropped only 79 points against a Celtics or against a Dallas Mavericks, like a big team that, you know, you expect to for the Magic to struggle with, especially while you're dealing with these injuries, you know, I think that kind of gets swept under the rug, where it feels like there's so much weight on top of us is we start losing to these teams that, you know, we're supposed to be in the easy stretch of our schedules, and we're not performing. And again, we've been spoiled because Coach Mose has found a way to maximize our winning capabilities with a little bit of adversity. And you expect for us to steer the ship right because you get the return of Franz and Paolo, and you still got healthy bodies. But again, I think that highlights the value even more for what we're missing in Goga and in Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner, and it's definitely that void is missing. Now, we got to pump the brakes a little bit. This is Franz's first game back. And we know that, the Magic were still finding a way to win games without Franz and Paolo. And then you bring Paolo back, and the team has to get adjusted. Now we know that during this stretch, now you bring Franz back, and even though we weren't winning games, this team has to readjust and recalibrate all over again. There was times in this game where I felt like Paolo Banchero was kind of, a little bit towards the back and deferring a little bit because Franz Wagner was doing his thing, So it's going to take an adjustment, and I think that what you said is really important. Where we can't pin them against one another. We can't say that Franz is better or Paolo is better. Like they do what they do, and they do it in a collective way. One day, the benefit of having players like Paolo and Franz is that when Paolo doesn't have it going, you expect Franz to be the one that carries us. And there's going to be games where Franz isn't having going, and Paolo's going to need to do the same thing. What we can't have happen is both of them have a really bad game, right? So obviously, you can toke into this game tonight in a lot of different factors. Us not hitting the three-point shot, our percentage was extremely low. Points in the paint was an issue. But keep in mind, Franz Wagner was also on a minutes restriction. Paolo Banchero still in a minutes restriction. So Coach Mose doesn't have everything in his arsenal to be able to, perform the way that we expect him to.
Yeah, I'm looking at the box score right now. So Franz took 19 shots tonight. That's a lot of shots. He only played 24 minutes in this game. But to your point, 20 points, 4 rebounds, 1 block. What were your thoughts on Franz? How do you think he looked out there today when he first came back? And what impact do you think he'll have on it? I mean, we have one more game at home, and then we go on a West Coast road trip, which I think will do this team wonders. I think they have to find that chemistry. They have to get on the road and kind of yell together once again. Hopefully, again, we'll have Suggs and Goga in the lineup by then. But yeah, let's talk about Franz for a second. Again, big news. I think nobody expected him to actually play tonight. I know when we saw the news that he was questionable yesterday, my assumption was they'll do it like Paolo, where his first came back as questionable, he kind of missed it. And then after that, he played in the second game that he was listed as questionable. So mentally, I was ready to see him back on Saturday against Detroit. It ended up being that he actually played tonight, which was a great surprise. So let me ask you about Franz. Number one, how do you think he looked tonight? Number two, what can we expect now from Paolo and Franz over the next few days as they kind of get that vibe together? Because to your point, they've only played, I think, less than 5 games so far this season together. And a large part has been Franz's show and then Paolo's show while Franz was out. And now it's like, wait, find that rhythm. We got to get this thing going like we did all last year.
Yeah, I mean, Franz looked good, man. Offensively, 20 points in 24 minutes is huge. Yeah, obviously he took a lot of shots, and the efficiency is going to get better. First game back, I love what I saw. And I think that the important thing to remember is that with Franz back in the lineup, Tristan da Silva is on the bench. And, Tristan still played 29 minutes. He dropped 16 points for us. So the amazing part about that is that, you bring Franz back in and your bench instantly gets better. Like, we're now getting additional offense that we're not getting from Jonathan Isaac and that we're not getting from Wendell Carter. Tristan da Silva, our rookie, is stepping up and doing some production for us. So, I love the fact that Franz is out there. During the interview before the game started, I love some of the things that he was saying where, he was it's been a long, patient process, and he's not a very patient person, and he wanted to fight and be out there and help this team win. So I'm personally happy that he is back, because that's our level of basketball. It's what sets us apart, being able to have multiple 6'10" players on the court that are versatile and can defend and play offense and kind of give a little bit. One thing that I would have liked to see Franz do more, especially in this game, is just being more of a playmaker as well. He, ended the game at 0 assists, and for a game where we really didn't have our point guard. Yes, we had Anthony Black, but Franz is ball dominant, and it would have been nice to see him kind of get other players involved, especially because This is a team that's been preaching, by committee. And, in order for us to be successful, we have to be able to find a way to play as one system, one machine. And right now it doesn't feel that way. Like these last games, you have Franz that has a good offensive game today, Paolo that had other good offensive games previously, but they're not turning into winning basketball games. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we talked about this off the air before we started recording. The offense just kind of feels stagnant lately. Like it feels like it's, hey, give it to this guy, let him create, and then we'll go from there. Whether that's AB, whether it's Paolo, whether it's Franz, now that he's back, doesn't feel like we have the fluidity to our offense, right? That ball movement, that pick and roll to the open guy, the drives to the basket, passes to the guy in the corner. Like we saw a lot of that early in the season, and that was helping us kind of stay engaged on offense and catch kind of teams off guards. But it feels like right now it's, hey, give it to Paolo, get out of the way. Give it to Franz, get out of the way. Or give it to Jalen Suggs for a little while before he got hurt, get out of the way. I don't think that's going to be a successful system for us, and I'm sure that most knows that. But yeah, we've kind of gone away from that. We got to get back to that. I think Franz will definitely do better in his second game tomorrow night against the Pistons and make more. We need him to be doing that more. We also need to see Paolo handle the ball a little more and create. I feel like lately it's been tough for him. He's been trying to draw fouls, which is leading to turnovers, and a lot of turnovers lately. We got to get something there as well. But I'm excited, man. One thing I do want to emphasize on this episode is I do think we'll be fine. I think the Orlando Magic will find a way to bounce out of this. They'll snap this losing streak. And next thing you know, they'll go on a 3, 4, 5, 8-game winning streak, and this will be all behind us. But we cannot ignore the fact that we're here today, right? We're in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. We've lost the momentum that we had. And don't forget, when we first talked about Paolo going down, Franz going down, our reaction to this podcast was, as long as we stay above 500, we'll be fine. And guess what? Franz is back today. We are right at 500. So it's not ideal. I think it was, again, too good to be true, the way that we were playing without the two of them. This is reality. We're at 500. This is what we expected, I believe. So now how do we, again, grow from this? How do we get better from this? I think it starts with getting Suggs and again, Goga back very soon here. That will help us big time. But a question for you when it comes to the Eastern Conference. Obviously, we won home court advantage. That's what we wanted. That was the biggest thing heading into the season. We learned last year the importance of that in the playoffs. So let me look at the standings real quick. So the fourth seed right now is Milwaukee with 24 wins. We are at 23. So we are 3 games and a half at this moment behind Milwaukee for the fourth seed. Do you think that's still the goal? Do you think that we can do it, number one? Can we really finish the season strong and get to the top 4 once again? Or are you more of the mindset of, hey, give me top 6 in the East, just make the playoffs, and we'll go from there? What do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at, how many games the Magic have played. We're right now sitting at 46 games. So we're have 36 games left. Like you take a look at, the time that we have, and we're already past the midway point. And I don't know. The Magic are, let's be honest, they're running out of time a little bit. The good thing is that the Magic, or the East in general, it is a tight race still. I don't think that the Magic right now, this very second, should be focused on the 4th seed. I think right now the Magic need to focus on game by game, getting back to our identity. Because if we just focus game by game, getting our healthy body, because the Magic can't do nothing without getting their healthy bodies back. And we're starting to get that now. The hard part that we've always discussed is it's an adjustment period. This is where we're at this very moment. We're going through the growing pains of the adjustment period. What the Magic need to make sure that they do, where we have to be extremely careful, is that we can't fall into the play-in realm. The Magic are going to have to start winning games. Right now is the worst possible time to go on a losing streak. At the same time, given what the Magic have done up to this point, the Magic can afford to lose these games at this very moment because they did a lot of the hard work prior to where they won games where they weren't necessarily supposed to win on paper. So the good news is, yes, the Magic are at 500, but the Magic need to turn that around extremely quickly, because before you know it, these 36 games that we have left, they're going to turn into 30. They're going to turn into 25, to 20, to 15. These games, they catch up, and they catch up quick. We're playing 2-3 games a week. So the Magic are going to have to jump on the train now. But I don't think that the fourth seed, looking there directly, like we have to make the fourth seed, ideally in a perfect world, yes, given what we went through last season. But before we even worry about that, we need to worry about getting back to playing our brand of basketball, and we just haven't done that. Like we need to get out of this losing streak before we start talking about the fourth seed.
Yep, I agree. I think what's still working in our favor is, I'm looking at Tankathon once again here. Strength of schedule, the rest of the way for the Magic, 28th most difficult. So basically, the third easiest schedule remaining. What works in our favor also is the fact that we're getting healthy again at the right time. We're going to get our guys back heading into the All-Star break, heading into the final stretch of the season. And to your point, 36 games. Can you go, 25-11 in the final 36 games? Can you go on a nice little run here when now you kind of distance yourself again from the play-in games? We did it last year. We've done it multiple times now, where when we come back out of the All-Star game, the schedule is kind of in our favor. We go on a nice little run. We end the season strong. That's my expectation. I think the Magic can definitely win on this final 36 games, at least 24. I can see a 24-12 run in them. The biggest thing will be health. Can they stay healthy, to your point? That's the biggest thing for us. And then when you look at other teams that are around us right now, so Milwaukee, they do have the sixth most difficult schedule. New York has the second most difficult schedule the rest of the way. Miami 17th, Indiana 24. So Indiana's kind of like us. But all this to say, we have the way things are looking right now, we have a good chance to make a run and stay in this thing. I said it all year long, I didn't think home court advantage for us this year was realistic. I think that we're maybe a year away from that. But if you can put us top 6 in the East, ideally you avoid the big teams, right? You avoid Boston, you avoid the Knicks in the first round, and heck, maybe even the Bucks. Ideally for me, you play a team like Indiana in the first round. We play them well. Their offense, we're defense. We match up well against them. Even if we have to go to Indiana to play, which I don't think that will be the case, but even if that is the case, I feel confident saying we can do well in that series. But again, we're too far away from that. We're still about 3 months away from that conversation. But for now, to your point, we got to just find our rhythm, find our defense, which has gone missing a little bit lately, and most importantly, find our offense. As we sit here today, by the way, we're exactly 2 weeks away from the trade deadline. No rumors whatsoever. Things have gone quiet on the Magic front completely. What are your thoughts? I know we talk about it now every episode as we get closer and closer, but what are your thoughts? Based on what we've seen lately, do you still think that the front office, they just stand pat? They kind of just keep analyzing what we have and make their moves in the offseason? Or what are your thoughts as things have gone up here the last couple of weeks?
I mean, I think the part that's important to remember is that losing Mo Wagner for the season really does hurt this team, just because the offense that he's able to bring from the bench is sorely missed. When you have moments where the starting unit isn't performing, there's been times where the second unit hasn't been able to step in and bring us back into that game. It just seems like the second unit hasn't really reached their level of play from last season. Now, there has been some adjustments, right? Cole Anthony is not the same Cole Anthony from the beginning of the season. We've been seeing more from him. Obviously, Franz back. We already talked about it in the beginning of this episode. Tristan Da Silva coming off the bench. We're going to see a little more production. But it would be nice to be able to not make an earth-shattering move, but be able to find a move that allows us to be able to help this team offensively. We're struggling on the offensive side, and this isn't something new, right? This is something that we've been struggling with for what seems like almost a decade at this point. So I would love to see it happen. Question is, will it happen? And I don't know if I don't know if the front office is in a position where they're willing to, right? I think that they can easily, and this feels like the story for us every single season, because we deal with so much injuries. I think the story is always they haven't had a chance to really see what this team is able to fully do, fully healthy together. But at some point, we have to look at ourselves and realize that we're not ever going to have. We need to prepare ourselves as if we're never going to have a full healthy season. And the window for Paolo and Franz, not saying that's shrinking right now, but there's going to be a point in time where you're going to have to pay Paolo Banchero. And when you pay these players this money, the money that we gave Franz, the money that we gave Jalen, now we're getting to a point where if we're not performing, we're not meeting expectations, this money is being wasted. There's a reason why we're paying them this much money, and it's to put a winning product on the basketball floor. And the important thing that I kind of want to note is that, this 5-game losing streak, it's easy for us to feel down, right? It's easy for us to point at, us being 500 as, things aren't going great. But I think that we need to relax. I think that once we get these healthy bodies in, that they should be coming in soon, we're going to be okay. And I think that that's something that we need to lean into.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that it's not time to panic. I think the front office has made it known that if something comes up to the table that makes sense for them, they will consider it. I think some things are becoming clear, though. I think if you look at a guy like Wendell Carter, I think you look at guys like Gary Harris, you look at guys like Cole Anthony to a degree, you got to at least have the conversation now. You bring up a great point. Paolo's about to get paid. It's not when, it's the fact that he is going to get paid here in June. He's going to get the max. That's going to be, $300 million? You just paid Franz $224, potentially $270 if he makes an All-NBA team. You just paid Jalen Suggs. So you know your core. You know who you guys are going to be. You just paid KCP, J.I. Once you pay Paolo that max money, man, things just got real in Orlando. Like, you can no longer be a team that's, under the tax, a team that's playing it safe anymore. You got to go. And I say this with all the good intentions. I don't see Paolo leaving Orlando. He just bought a home here. But the clock starts ticking, right? Like you got to make sure this guy feels like, hey, we're doing everything that we can to win. And one thing that I'll blame the front office for is that they're very patient. Jeff Waltman, he takes his time. He likes to evaluate. And I love that because it's led us in a good direction. But now that you know exactly what you have and who fits, who doesn't fit, that's it, man. Like, I really give it to them. I give it to them until this offseason to make some big decisions. But you can no longer say to yourself, who's Wendell Carter? Like, is he our starter? Is he our bench guy? Who is he? Wait, is Cole Anthony our spark plug? Is he a guy that we can depend on? You've seen Cole Anthony now play for 5 years. And unfortunately, one thing I will say about Cole, love him to death. The last thing I want to see is, honestly, straight him. I love Cole Anthony. But one thing you cannot say to yourself is, he's going to be our sixth man that's going to carry us offensively. Like, he hasn't been able to do that for 5 years. It's ups and downs with him. So you either need another guy next to him that can give you that consistency, or you got to make the move. Wendell, unfortunately, will never be a starting center next to Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Like, it doesn't fit. He's not tall enough. He's not aggressive enough. He's not physical enough. Goga has taken his job away. So is Goga your guy now all of a sudden to go as the main center for the next 2 to 3 years? Or do you upgrade that position? So we have some questions to answer for sure. I just don't think that you have to panic and do it now in February. However, if the Nets come calling and they give you a guy like Cam Johnson, a deal that makes sense to you now, or Portland calls you and says, hey, we'll give you Simons for Cole Anthony and, I don't know, Jay Howard and a pick, whatever it might be, and it makes sense to the timeline, it makes sense money-wise, it makes sense the age of the player you're getting back, you have to consider it. Because one thing is blatant, man, with this team. Offense is a struggle. And I'll tell you right now, even at full strength, there will be games in the playoffs when we're on ESPN or TNT and we're scoring 75 points because our threes are going down that game. So you can see that again. You can just kind of wait for it to happen. Or you can say to yourself, you know what? That is our weakness. We got to find a solution to that and give this team some help. I will finish it with this. I think that coach mostly has done enough with poor fitting pieces he deserves a break. He deserves a guy that can come in here and give him a little bit of help. Again, will it happen? Probably not. But I think he's done a lot of good work, and he's earned himself the right to say, hey, here you go, coach. Here's a little help for you on the offensive end. So it'll be intriguing to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But to your point, I don't expect a move.
Yeah, I honestly don't either. But I've been surprised before, so we'll wait to see what happens. I think that an indicator could be the fact that we haven't heard any rumors. Nothing. The only thing that we've really heard is the Magic being linked to Cam Johnson, and that's literally about it. Nothing substantial whatsoever. So, a lot of teams are inquiring on Cam Johnson, and rightfully so. Jalen Suggs continues to make progress, remains out due to back injury. Gary Harris, still waiting to see how he's progressing. We did get to see Jet Howard back, had a decent game, 10 points in 17 minutes, and then hopefully we get Gogo Batadze soon. Magic end up facing Saturday against the Detroit Pistons, followed by Monday at Miami, and then we get our get back against Portland on Thursday. When you take a look at those games, what are your predictions?
On paper, by getting guys back, it should be a 3-0 week. Should be a nice time to bounce back. Should be a week that you say to yourself, hey, it's okay. We struggled, but we got this. Unfortunately, though, Detroit's playing really, really well. They're actually 6th in the East right now. So it's a team that all of a sudden you're chasing and trying to catch up to. So that game is important. If you ask me, you got to get that game at home before you go to Miami and then you go on the West Coast road trip. So that game against Detroit, it's an important one. Miami, another team that's right behind you at the moment in the standings. You got to get that one. And then Portland, again, they're tanking. They're trying to lose. You cannot go to Portland expecting a win. You got to go and take it away from them. It's a tough environment to play in. It always is. But if you ask me on paper, with Franz and Paolo back, potentially Jalen Suggs and Goga, you got to go 3-0. Anything other than that, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a good thing for us.
Yeah, I got us going 2-1. I do agree with you. Detroit's been playing some really, really good basketball. So that's not going to be an easy win. Miami, who knows what's going on with that organization? They're kind of in the shambles right now. So still they can come out and they can still compete, and they have some really good young pieces. So Magic need to make sure that we're prepared for all three of those games. That Portland game is one that I'm looking at because they took us down tonight. And at home. So the Magic are going to have to come in prepared, and they should definitely be circling that one as, taking a stand and say that what happened tonight won't happen again. Simple as that.
Yep.
So that's a wrap for us here for tonight's episode. I appreciate everyone for listening. Show is presented by Bet Online, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
For all the latest Magic news and updates, visit OrlandoMagicHQ.com and follow us on Instagram at OrlandoMagicHQ and on Twitter at OMagicHQ. Also, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your favorite listening platform.